So it's the first day of fall, and I'm gonna head out and take some pictures. All right, so since it is the first day of fall, it's a little bit cooler out today. Only like 95. For those of you in colder temperatures, I'm sorry, but it is 95 degrees on September 21st in Las Vegas. The one thing that kind of bums me out here about Las Vegas is the fact that, and I'll kind of show you, is the fact that really we don't get a lot of clouds. Although today we actually have a few. So I thought maybe there'd be a nice sunset and just try and enjoy the afternoon. Oh, whew, it's bright. I actually wanted to talk about one of my favorite accessories, and I think that if you are a photographer, no matter what you shoot with, whether it's Nikon or Canon or Sony, do people shoot with Pentax? Olympus or any of those, and also use either iPhones or iPads, this is by far my favorite accessory. It's absolutely necessary, have to have one of these, and in the most recent update to iOS 12, they made this thing way better for the iPhone. I hope we catch this light. Doing just a little bit of off-roading here to get to the spot that I wanted to shoot. The sun has actually gone down over the mountains. It's actually not the direction that I wanted to shoot, but quick tip, even though the forecasted sunset was at 6:49 and it is 6:14 right now, the sun has set. That is normally the case, especially when you live where I do, near the mountains. So what'll happen is, just because of the angle of the sun against the mountain, the forecasted time isn't accurate. But for me, the other side of the valley is still fully lit. So that's the direction that I actually want to be shooting. Now, I know that there's a high likelihood that I won't get anything that's super phenomenal. I still kind of want to give it a shot and kind of see how we do. You know, this is what you do on a weekend day, right? You just hop in the car, you drive out, you grab the camera gear, and you do everything you can to try and do something fun with it when the opportunity presents itself. So while the direction that I want to shoot is that way, there's actually a really cool kind of sunset situation happening this way with some of the dust in the air. So I'm going to set up the tripod and just kind of see what I get. All right, so I've got the tripod set up now. I'm actually going to shoot on this same lens. This is my my 24-70 f2.8 Tamron lens. This is the lens I normally do vlogs on. So I'm actually getting the 7200 set up, and I really like the framing. I like the lines. So let me kind of show you what I've got here. So right now this is kind of how I've got it framed, kind of going down the road, and I'm actually really kind of excited to get this kind of with a lot of contrast. So in post-processing, I'd probably add a lot of contrast to this and really kind of punch up some of the detail. I'm going to shoot this as a bracketed exposure so that I can get as much detail as possible, and so that I can get both the detail out of the sun coming through, those rays coming up over the mountains, as well as all the shadow detail here. As much as the 60 Mark II has okay dynamic range, I wouldn't want to push it anywhere near what this kind of scene is. This is a significant difference in dynamic range. So I'm going to really kind of try and bracket this and see what happens when I put this into post. Mountain out here, which is super pretty, and just getting some really nice golden sun on it as the sun starts to set, and I just want to get a couple of shots of that. It looks gorgeous through the iPhone screen. You can probably hear that buzzing sound. That is this giant power station that's behind me. I don't know what this is, but it's loud, and it's one more reason that I am not flying the drone around here. kind of starting to come down. The tips of the peaks there are really starting to glow just a little bit. And what I want to do is I just want to quickly just kind of switch. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to remember where it is. There we go. I'm going to switch my aspect ratio to 1:1 for more of an Instagram style shot. Looking at my histogram just to make sure that I've got everything in. I don't want to lose any of these pixels. All right, looks like I've got everything in the shot the way that I want. Got it framed up the way that I want, and that's like I said, that's going to be something that I might want to throw on Instagram later. So I'm shooting it at 1:1 on the camera so that when I export it, it's already framed the way that I want. It looks the way that I want, and I can go ahead and just really easily make that crop and then add whatever filters or adjustments that I want to and throw it right on Instagram. It's already formatted for Instagram. You know, as the summer kind of comes to a close here in Vegas, the desert can be beautiful. It's just so hot. It's just so hot. All right, so that wasn't the sunset to end all sunsets, but it was nice. It was really pretty. What I started the video with was my favorite accessory. I've talked a little bit about this in the past. I'll link to a previous video that I did about getting photos imported into the iPad. My previous camera body was the Canon 7D Mark I, which used CF cards. So if you're currently shooting with any of Canon's cameras that shoot with CF cards, you know that trying to get those into your MacBook or your iPad or your iPhone takes an extra step. But since I've switched to the 6D Mark II, I can switch to SD card. What I am just super excited about, and this is going to sound dumb, but it's the Apple camera connection SD card reader. And since I've upgraded to the 6D, I'm able to use it again. But specifically using iOS 12, the most recent update of iOS that just came out this week, the iPhone is considerably faster using RAW files and being able to import from the connection kit. It just makes it considerably easier for me. This is by far my most important accessory. So in addition to being able to bring in SD cards from, say, my Canon, using a mini SD card adapter, I can also pull in footage from my GoPro and from my Mavic Pro. Now, is this the answer to every problem? No. Is this an excellent solution in every situation? No. I still find myself in a lot of situations wanting to put my photos into my MacBook. But for editing photos on the go, especially if you've got a client that needs super fast turnaround, this is an awesome tool to have with you. If you are an iPhone or iPad user, you have to have one of these. This is just the most important accessory that I have, regardless of where I am. So to show you how versatile this accessory can be, I'm actually going to take the shots that I just took of the sunset over this way, the sunset back over here with the clouds and the mountain, and I'm actually going to throw those on my iPhone. I'm going to use Adobe Lightroom, and I'm going to get those edited, and I'm going to post them to Instagram in about 15 minutes. So before this video is even posted to YouTube, the shots that I took will be on my Instagram ready for display. So go ahead and check out my Instagram right here. It's at jblakePhoto. I'd love to hear what you think of the photos that I took tonight. Now, I can tell you that I've had a big difference between processing on the iPhone and processing on the iPad. Now, because of the update in iOS 12, uploading the photos to the iPhone and the iPad have been pretty much identical since iOS 12, and I've been running the beta for a while. But before iOS 12, with iOS 11, using even the iPhone 10, it was painful to try and import photos and video using that connector. It just took forever. But now with iOS 12, it's a lot easier. So now I'd like to kind of show you my workflow of taking those photos, throwing them into Adobe Lightroom on the iPhone, and then how I get them out to Instagram. So normally I would go ahead and do this from my office, but I'm still out in the desert, so I want to show you how easy it is to just do this on your iPhone. But first I need to pull the card out of this camera. Okay, but hold on a second, because you might be asking yourself, well, why wouldn't I just use the Wi-Fi connection in my camera, right? I've got a big fancy camera, it's got a Wi-Fi connection, why wouldn't I just copy that onto my phone from there? Well, there's a downside to that. Number one, you can only copy JPEGs using the Canon software at full resolution. Yes, you can copy RAW files, but they are not full res. They are significantly down-resed, and that just doesn't work for me. It's starting to get dark, but I want to stay until I get these photos. All right, so I've got the camera connection kit connected to my iPhone. I'm going to go ahead and start recording my screen so that you can see everything. And now I can automatically go to everything that it was from today. So I don't want to grab that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in that photo and maybe that photo and that whole pano that I did, and that one and that one. Normally I would just import them all, but for the sake of time here, I'm going to go ahead and just import a couple of them, and then maybe that one and that one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit import, and import selected. My battery's kind of low. It's asking me, am I sure? I'm close to power though, so that's good. So one thing I want to point out is, watch how fast this goes. Look at that. And it's done. I want to keep those on the card. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and swipe over to Lightroom CC and get that opened up. I'm also going to unplug my phone from the camera connection kit, and I am going to connect it to a power source. I feel like the iPhone X battery just isn't anywhere near what I was getting at the 7 Plus. It's just so bad. Maybe I'll get the new XS Max Plus R, whatever it's called. I actually specifically avoided doing iPhone stuff. I wanted to talk a little bit about the new cameras on the phones, but then I decided not to get them. So maybe I need to do a video about not getting them. But I really didn't feel like hopping in on the whole iPhone release bandwagon. It just didn't feel right for my channel. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and import these photos into Lightroom. All right, so I think I've got all the ones that I really wanted, and now I'm going to go ahead and tap on the one that I had originally kind of framed as a 1-to-1. And the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is crop it. And when you hit crop, you can actually select the 1-to-1 square. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Then hit OK. So now I've got a crop. Let me just kind of zoom in and kind of look at that. Looks a little hazy. Now I was not using a UV or a circular polarizer on this shot, although I could have, and it would have been interesting. So the first thing that I normally do in Lightroom is I'm just going to hit auto, just to kind of see how things look, and then I back it off just to kind of see what I can do myself. And so what I'm going to go ahead and, oh, not the healing brush. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into light, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and play first with the exposure, and I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. And I'm not going to touch the contrast. I don't normally use the contrast slider much. I like playing with that in curves. I'm going to bring my highlights down. I'm going to bring my shadows up just a little bit, bring my whites down, and bring my blacks up. Okay, now I think I've got a decent place to start from. Now I'm going to move to color, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my color mix, and I'm going to go to my blues. I'm going to make them a little more blue, and I'm going to bring up the saturation and down the luminance, just to give my sky just a little bit of detail. Then I'm going to go into my oranges. I'm going to move them a little bit towards the red and really kind of punch up the saturation and kind of play with the luminance here. Not too much, you don't want it to look overdone. Same with the reds. Bring them up just a little bit. And then I want to bring the overall saturation of the image up just a couple of shots. Now once I've done that, once I've got my color generally where I want it to be, I'm going to go ahead and modify my curves. I'm going to bring down my shadows, bring up my highlights, give me just kind of a standard S curve there. And then of course if you wanted to make this a little bit more you know, kind of retro-y, you always bring up your shadows here. I'm gonna keep them down though. I want to actually bring that down just even more. and bring that up even more. Right up to there. That looks super punchy to me. I like that a lot. I could just kind of leave it like that, but let me just kind of go in, and what I want to do is I want to up the clarity, you know, just kind of make it look a little crunchier, not that far, maybe a +10. And then I want to kind of play with my haze control. I've noticed that when you play with the haze control, I then find myself going back into light and actually pushing some stuff back up. So in this case, I think it looks okay, but let me kind of go back to light and see where we are with our highlights. I might want to bring those back in just a little bit. Bring my shadows up just a little bit. And then I might even want to go back into color, go to mix, and then bring the saturation of those oranges down just a little bit, since that dehazer has a tendency to really kind of bust things up and make them super punchy, which is nice, adds a lot of contrast to the image, but sometimes it's a little overdone. So, all right, so I like that shot, and I'm gonna go ahead and post it. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the export button. I'm gonna save to camera roll. I always do maximum available resolution, and it's gonna go ahead and give me that photo. All right, so that was it. So now I've got a photo that I drove probably 10 or 15 minutes from my house. I was able to throw out the camera, take a couple of really great shots, and then throw them into the iPhone using my little camera connector kit with the SD card reader. It's obviously getting late, my camera's tired, it looks like my camera lens is having a hard time wanting to focus right now, so you're seeing a lot of in and out. It's sleepy, it's time to go to bed. Thanks everybody for watching this video. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you like cool stuff like this. If you thought that this was super boring, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, let me know what you'd like to see, and I'll go ahead and do that video instead, and then I'll delete this video. But let me know what you think in the comments. Go ahead and hit the like button, hit the dislike button if you don't like it. I mean, you know, that's a bummer. Don't do that. Don't do that. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks everybody. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks everybody.